Good morning. Welcome back to Bible and Blues. And, this morning is Saturday morning. It shocked my son this morning. It was actually kind of fun. He rolls out of his room this morning, looks at me and says, "Why are you still here?" He's on summer vacation, so he's lost track of the days. He didn't realize it was Saturday. I can't say I haven't done it. I did it when I was a kid. I do. I've done it. If you ever taken an extended vacation, had 2 or 3 weeks off, it can happen pretty quick. So anyway, so this morning I was kind of doing what most of us probably do on a Saturday morning. Get up, grab a cup of coffee, sit down. Fire up your computer, see what's going on in the world. And on my Facebook, I ran across this video here, which let's see if I can pull up just a little bit more of it.
American atheists are.
There we go. Isn't he a good-looking guy? Anyway, this is on Fox News. I don't watch Fox News. I actually don't watch much news at all. I scroll through and I try to find particular information for news. If I want to hear things that are pro-Trump or anti-Trump, it's not hard to find it if you want to. It doesn't really matter. It depends on whether you're watching CNN or Fox News. And actually, Fox News actually kind of lambasts him a little bit from what I've heard. But be that as it may, either way, I don't actually watch mainstream media, but you get to see it on your wall on Facebook and your Twitter. You get to see these things that other people post. So this story I came across, and it's your usual separation of church and state concept, right? So this is Atheists Appalled by Weekly White House Bible Study. Okay, so this isn't a very long video. It's about 5 minutes long. And you can see, if you're looking at my screen, you can see I'm doing a screenshot here. 5:15. Hopefully this doesn't get flagged. Hopefully we do a little start and stop. Hopefully it slows it down. We'll see what happens. I don't know if they qualified this for public domain. I might get flagged. You never know. We'll find out. I'm going to try to do some stuff to blur out some stuff here and there, change it, in editing. A little bit here and there to make it happen. So anyway, let's listen to a little bit of what happened here.
Up in arms after the White House revealed it hosts a weekly Bible study with high-ranking cabinet members. Some even claiming that the Bible study is an illegal use of taxpayer funds. So is this okay, or is religion not welcome at the White House? Here to debate it, Andrew.
Okay, this is going to be brought up several times. Is this an illegal use of White House funds for them to do this? And is a weekly White House Bible study. So in order for it to be something that costs funds, first off, people doing it have to be paid. So that's the first question. Is anybody being paid to be there? Then there's the question of, if they're using an empty room that otherwise would be empty, then no funds are being used. I think maybe the biggest thing you can get into this that is costing government money is the fact they have lights turned on and people are using facilities like the bathroom, which could cost money. I think that's probably the biggest way you could call. You'd be kind of splitting hairs to call that use of taxpayer money. So, to be honest, and that might be the only argument that you would have on that.
Seidel is a constitutional attorney from the Freedom from Religion Foundation, and Dr. Jay Strack is the president and founder of Student Leadership University and he's one of the faith leaders on the White House Faith-Based Initiative team. Andrew and Jay, thank you very much for joining us this morning. Andrew, I will start with you. The name of your foundation is Freedom from Religion. However, when you read the First Amendment, it talks about freedom of religion.
That's a constant argument here between both sides right here. And the Constitution does say freedom of religion. We do have the freedom to worship as we see fit, to exercise our chosen form of worship, and if that and that means Bible studies for those of us who are Christian. So,
why would these leaders not have the ability in a country with a lot of faith-filled people to simply host a Bible study?
Well, look, there are two major concerns here, right? There's the legality and the propriety of this. So first, these are government officials.
And FYI, I probably wouldn't like this guy on site. He's just has a real smug look about him, but that's just me personally.
on government property, using government resources on the taxpayer time, getting together for a religious purpose. And that raises several issues. What is the extent of the government resources being used? Are staffers pressured or coerced into it?
This guy's so full of crap. Pressured or coerced into this. What kind of coercion? Yeah, I mean, seriously. You want to talk about that. I mean, it's like any supervisor, if he happens to be religious, such as if I were a supervisor, which I'm not, would I give preferential treatment, to somebody who is in my Bible study? No, that would be wrong, wouldn't it? So, and how about somebody that's an atheist having an atheist in there? Somebody who is a militant atheist, would he give preferential treatment to somebody who is also an atheist, say in a science lab? Would that supervisor in a science lab perhaps give higher elevation of an opinion of a fellow atheist as opposed to a Christian scientist that is in the same lab? Is this the same argument, isn't it?
Attending.
And do you believe that these cabinet members are being
submitted a number?
Do you believe they're being coerced?
No, I'm saying that this is something we don't. I'm saying that this is something we don't know, and we've actually submitted records requests to attempt to determine the extent of any possible violations. But if you leave the legality.
And one thing about records requests, if this is a totally voluntary thing, it's just a group of people that get together on a weekly basis, there's not going to be any records. I mean, I sit with people on a routine basis and study the Bible. We don't keep records of what we studied. Come on.
Legalities aside, the propriety here, it can't be considered proper or in keeping with American values for government officials to get together on taxpayer time to study a book that condones slavery and the subjugation of women and the eternal torture and torment of people who don't believe like you. So even if it doesn't violate...
And there's a common atheist thing. It condones slavery. No. Subjugation of women. No. Eternal punishments, you could argue that one. And we discuss this kind of thing all the time, whereas, the Bible was written in a time where these things were there and prevalent. So it discussed those and it addresses those things. If it was, and also subjugation of women, Jesus actually, was first seen by women who in a time when and place where women weren't even allowed to act as witnesses in a court of law, and they were the first witnesses of the rise of the empty tomb. So he that right there elevates women up, and in the Catholic Church, the Mother Mary has been seen and elevated dramatically for centuries. So I don't know. I don't really, this whole thing, they really like to jump on that.
Violate the Constitution directly. It certainly violates that core principle of American government.
So right there, I'm going to back that up just a little bit.
Doesn't violate the Constitution directly.
Doesn't violate the Constitution. Thank you.
It certainly violates that core principle of American government, the separation of state and church.
Dr. Strack,
Separation of state. We're going to get into that in a little bit.
I'm just going to let you open up and respond to that.
Yes, well, thank you. Well, I'm upset that Andrew is dismayed and appalled.
I want to say right now, obviously, I'm on this guy's side. I'm the Christian, okay? So I'm not going to sit there and jump on him as hard. But you know what? I think about... I think that makes perfect sense for me, because obviously I'm not coming into this unbiased, just so you know.
And distraught that a group of men and women in the White House who are faced with some of the challenges that our world is facing, the planet is on fire, will take a little bit of time to get to know each other, to pray for one another, and then also to pray for wisdom and to see a verse or two in Scripture about how to be focused in life. So I'm very grateful we have a president. I'm very grateful for...
But seriously, I'd hope they do more than a verse or two of Scripture in their Bible studies, because if you just do a verse or two, you're taking things out of context, to be honest. Frequently, when asked to read a verse, people who have more experience will actually be like, well, I'd like to start here, a verse or two above and finish down here a verse or two below, because it puts it in its own context. So a verse or two, which is the single verse concept, which is a common argument used by atheists, just take a single verse out of something and ignore the remaining context, is a common debate tactic of atheists. Whereas, like I say, I never agree with a single verse. And it's one of the reasons why on my Bible readings, I nearly always read an entire chapter, because the whole thing makes a context. The verses weren't divided up until much, much later history, very recent history, before we started doing, the chapter and verse thing and divided the Bible up. That was definitely man's contrivance right there.
Or a cabinet that gives people an opportunity to do so. And if you were to take away, in fact, I'm afraid Andrew and some of his friends would be very upset to have been at that constitutional convention in Philadelphia when I guess their hero, Benjamin Franklin, stood and said simply, "Sir, I've lived a long time. We have seen, after praying daily in this building for divine protection during the great struggle against Great Britain."
They didn't actually pray daily in the building at all.
They pray daily during sessions of Congress. They pray.
That's what they said.
So the actual truth of the matter is they did pray daily. Now, they may not have prayed there, and it was desired not to. There were quite a few people who were deists there, which includes Benjamin Franklin, and these are people who would say, yes, there was a creator of the universe and time, but once he got everything spinning and set in place, he's stepped away and he's been on break ever since. That's kind of the concept of a deist. That's a very generalized concept of a deist. But the fact of the matter is, the buildings have been used actually for quite a while. There were church services held in the rotunda of the White House, on a weekly basis, and just like you see churches renting unused schools on Sundays for services, and not to say that always turns out perfect, without a doubt. I have seen things taken advantage of and bad things happen. However, that doesn't change the fact that is just use of the building. Okay, and so. Yeah.
Can you hear us, Andrew?
Andrew, that's what Benjamin Franklin said. That's his own words.
Well, Benjamin Franklin proposed a prayer, but they did not have any prayer at the Constitutional Convention, and the delegates actually rejected his call to prayer.
Do they have prayer in Congress today?
There was no prayer at the Constitution.
Do they not pray in open sessions
of Convention?
Do they not open sessions of Congress today with a prayer?
Well, and the Freedom from Religion Foundation is actually suing because they've rejected atheists' attempt to get an invocation done. But James Madison...
What the heck would the atheists invocate? Dear universe, you aren't listening to us at all, but you're not going to help us at all, and we are just going to fumble along on our own, as we have done for thousands and thousands of years. We thank you for absolutely no help at all, and the fact that our genetic code continues to attempt to replicate itself through through procreation, and so we thank ourselves for all of this. Would that be the invocation? I don't know.
Madison, who wrote the Bill of Rights and is the father of the Constitution, said that those chaplains in Congress are a direct violation of equal rights and of the First Amendment.
So
again, we don't actually have...
You're invoking what many invoke is a wall of separation between church and state.
Yes.
Except the wall of separation of church and state is not in the Constitution, is it? It was in a letter drafted in 1803. So your entire premise
Exactly. No, absolutely not. That is a phrase that is used to sum up the relationship between religion and government. And it has been adopted by the Supreme Court as early as 1870.
And I actually disagree with that adoption. The whole concept of the letter to Dansbury was actually a promise to the church to keep government out of the church. That was the actual point of it. Now, the fact that since then it has been twisted and turned and changed is a whole other thing, and having religious things happening. They have allowed, of course, all different religions in there, and the invocation has been done by rabbis, by imams. The invocation has been done by all three majors, and and others. Okay, and the Dalai Lama has been honored in by our government. And so freedom of religion means the free right to exercise and practice your religion. Again, it is not freedom from religion. The separation of church and state is a protection for the church. Anyway, continue, right?
I mean, fair trial isn't a phrase that appears in the Constitution, but everybody recognizes that there's a right to a fair.
Yeah, exactly, right there. Rule of law is, and a right to a speedy trial is in there. A right to your defense is in there. Okay, so, and as far as fair trial, I think it can be argued that a lot of people haven't gotten a fair trial over the time, and that's part of this. And definitely can be argued that doesn't always happen. So, there.
Doctor, difference between freedom from religion and freedom of religion.
There's no question. I don't know how it can traumatize somebody that people of their own free will have chosen. They have the freedom to say, I am a man of faith, a woman of faith. I need prayer, and I would like to do this. And I'm very grateful that we have an administration that says part of what made America America is our faith. And Andrew is right. Nobody should have anything imposed upon them. And no one at those weekly Bible studies, and those of us that have the privilege to work with the president several times and his cabinet, can honestly tell you it's a sincere listening session. And, the picture that everybody...
And just a side note here, I actually don't think that Donald Trump actually is anything more than agnostic in his faith. I don't think the president is a religious man. I don't think he's a believer. I think when he calls to Jesus Christ, it's probably usually in anger. So I never put him in the side of the faithful or the religious. I think he's relatively irreligious. I think it's something he tried to use for calling more base, and then he said 1 Corinthians and things like that. So doesn't understand a lot of things. Where there's more than just the nomenclature. Hey, look at that! It's 10 o'clock. My alarm, clock's going off. So these things are just some of the things that are there. I mean, when you talk about Donald Trump, I don't think he cares one way or the other about religion. I don't think he cares one way or the other about gay rights. I think actually, whether gay people get married. So anyway, moving on, we're starting to go down a rabbit hole here.
Everybody went crazy over us praying over the president. Well, if you knew what was happening before that prayer and after that prayer on prison reform and social justice, and then after the prayer, we went right back to doing our best efforts.
No doubt consequential stuff for sure. I know how I feel about this. You guys are going to continue to debate it. We want to ask our viewers, let us know, friends at foxnews.com, where do you stand? With the nation at 7% atheists, I feel like it might be a bit one-sided with the emails, but we'll see.
Okay, only 2 seconds left. It's just...
Thank you both for joining.
Trying to just... Okay, there we go. Put him sleepy-eyed. Anyway, so anyway, that's kind of what I've got today, what I hit on today. It was a little different for me. I don't think I've ever done this with a video and just sat there and worked on it like this, but it was kind of fun. What do you think? I mean, he said with the nation at 7% atheists, and that's off of email polls. So he's like, I think it's it might be a little skewed with and maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I don't know. Maybe it's a skewed number one direction. It could be the other direction too, for all I know. Personally, I think that's actually pretty heavy at 7% because they lump in a lot of people who call themselves atheists who are actually agnostic. And would actually kind of think, I think I'll go to heaven because I'm a basically good person. They may not understand the concept behind, what's good, what's bad. But so anyway, again, another rabbit hole. What did you think about this? Did you have an opinion on the whole concept of should services, not services, a Bible study of a few people getting together and doing a Bible study on government grounds? in the White House, like, is that bad? I mean, to me, it's not really even an issue if they're not on the clock, if they're not getting paid for it, and and the building's not being used, the area that they're in is not being used. They're not stopping other people from doing their stuff. At some point in time, at what point in time are they using government funds? They're not. They're actually just people who are getting together after work and checking and sitting down with the Bible and studying it. That's my opinion, and I think anybody should be able to do that. If after work, if I get off of work and I sit down with, you've seen me with my coworker Dan once, and that was at work. We were off the clock, and will our work have a problem with that? Well, I suppose if we get off the rails, yeah. But if I wasn't a little mildly careful about, company emblems and logos being shown, they might have a problem with it in that sense, being associated with, if I was really going off the rails. But if we're sitting there after work and we're using the building, there's no problem with that. They don't have a problem with that. We're going to have a Bible study after work. Where? Well, right here. Okay, that's cool. It's in the conference room. Well, how long are you going to be here? Half hour. Once a week. And, are we stopping anybody else from doing it? Are we stopping people from, atheists from getting together and doing it? We're not stopping them. Okay? We're not telling them they can't, and we're not coercing anybody. So, anyway, that's an opinion piece right there. Why don't you give your opinion down below, because I'd love to hear what you think. I'd love to debate it with you if you're on the other side. If you think that because of the whole concept of the wall of separation between church and state, you actually think that's in the Constitution, or you think that's a policy that is so strong that it should, that we should never have to deal with it in any way, shape, or form, which means that there should be no prayer in Congress. Also would mean that your favorite person who invokes God as president, whether they're a believer or not, shouldn't do it. And I hear it all the time. I hear people on the left and the right who, for political reasons, I swear it's for political reasons, they'll invoke the name of God and bring a scripture in, trying to prove their point, and because they know they're speaking to a large portion of the population, a vast majority of the population will relate to it, and so therefore, yes, it's for political reasons. I understand that. But they're not fooling me. I'm not stupid. But should they not be allowed to do that? So give me your opinion. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.